Hello and welcome to everyone joining us for this exclusive webinar and Q&A on how to pass the FIFA Football Agent Exam. Getting a FIFA agent license is essential if you want to do transfer business globally, but the pass rate dropped to just 32% in 2023. So passing the exam is undoubtedly challenging and requires much effort. The key questions for you to focus on are: 1, how do you give yourself the best chance of passing the FIFA agent exam? And 2, how does the partial suspension of the FIFA Football Agent Regulations impact the exam and the questions that you'll be answering? Well, now's your chance to find out from a true expert. I'm delighted to welcome Dr. Serhat Yilmaz, the Academic Director for Sports Agent Education at Loughborough University, in partnership with Johan Cruyff Institute. Not only does he teach agents how to pass the exam with his courses, he is also a sports law specialist and has passed the exam himself. This session today is part of an unmissable series of thought leadership webinars on TransferRoom's Agent Exchange. You can find out more and register for the next ones in June on head coach recruitment and success in the summer transfer window at transferroom.com/agent exchange. Dr. Serhat will shortly be answering your questions, so please put them in the live chat. But first, for the next 15 minutes or so, he will explain what you need to know about the exam. Please welcome Dr. Serhat Yilmaz.
Thank you for introduction, Frederik. And it's a pleasure to be here online with the participants and TransferRoom. I'm just gonna present for next 15 to 20 minutes on some of the key areas I think you need to be aware of, and then we can take your questions. So what I'm going to present, first of all, to give us the context for the exam, is just a quick overview about the exam. And also I'm going to touch on this drop in the success rate in the exam that we experienced during particularly the September 2023 exam. Then I'm going to talk about the global partial suspension of FIFA Football Agent Regulations and its impact on the exam. And then finally, I want to talk about the strategy for utilizing FIFA study materials during the exam. So, first of all, the exam overview. So what do we know about the exam? We know that, first of all, this is an online exam. So what this means in practice, I'm assuming majority of you will be taking the exam on the 22nd of May. And basically, you need to be in a physical venue that is determined by your respective member association. And literally, when you turn up at the venue, you are going to log on to your FIFA agent platform, and then you will access the exam via agent platform. We also know that there are 20 questions. So this is the format of the exam, and they are MCQs, so multiple choice questions. And also, as I said, it's an open book exam. So what this means, during the exam, the FIFA study materials will be available and permissible to access. And it's a 60 minutes exam, so an hour, and you need to answer all of the 20 questions. And the pass grade is, you need minimum 15 or more correct answers. So it's 75% of the questions you need to answer correctly. And as I said, for the 2024, we know that there are 2 exam dates. And if you are sitting the May exam, you already know it's on 22nd of May, 2024. And for those who are not planning to take the May exam, but wants to take the exam later in the year, we know that there will be another exam date during November 2024. That date is not determined as yet, the exact date, and FIFA, after the May exam, probably in the course of summer 2024, will release the exam date and start accepting applications. So this was the overview of the exam, its format, duration, pass, grade. And now the other thing I wanted to focus on with respect to exam is this success rate that we have seen in the 2023 exams. We know that, again, there were two exams, one in April 2022 and one in September 2023, sorry. And basically, as you can see here, and this is the data from FIFA, in September exam, there was a big drop in the pass rate. So in April 2023, about 52% of the candidates passed the exam successfully. But when we get to September exam, as you can see, it's about the success rate dropped to 20%. Okay, so to me, this is a big drop. And as Frederik said, we run a training course on the FIFA Agent Exam at Loughborough University in collaboration with Johan Cruyff Institute. And actually, I try to understand why there was such drop in the success rate during September 2023 exam. And I raised this with some of our delegates of the training course who took the September 2023 exam. And I want to share some of the qualitative feedback we received on their experience of the 2023 exam, which can give us some insight as to what to expect from the exams in 2024. So, and these are some of the qualitative feedbacks. So the delegate said so many scenario-based questions. So those questions are where basically there is a scenario, factual scenario that you need to read and understand, and then there is a question based on that. Got at least 10 multiple correct choice questions which are more difficult. So this is basically this qualitative feedback about those questions where also candidate needs to choose potentially more than one correct options. So the question might have more than one option as correct option. I would say I probably had 13 questions that were very tricky and more scenario-based. So similar theme here within this feedback. And 7 that were almost too easy, but made me second guess yourself and have to interpret the question. So this feedback is about also, how candidate needs to interpret the question. So although they may not be so difficult, but it still requires some form of interpretation, which then requires understanding of the question for the candidate to answer. Too little time. This was from one of our delegates. A lot of questions, select one or more. So the point here is, again, this delegate was talking about the experience that he or she had about having more of those questions where actually the correct options might be more than one. So, therefore, based on this insight, what you might expect in the exam during 2024. Perhaps those questions that are scenario-based and text-heavy, and also possibly of having more than one options as correct answers. So what I define as select one or more questions as the correct answers. So this is important to appreciate, because for me, during the exam, when you've got 60 minutes and when you've got a scenario-based, text-heavy questions, obviously, first of all, it will be more time-consuming, but also it's going to put pressure on you because effectively you will be processing so much text. So I think it's important to sort of try to practice tackling these type of questions. I know in the FIFA mock exam that everybody can access and complete through the FIFA Agent platform prior to the exam. And I strongly advise you to take those mock exams in the platform, that you will see this type of questions, okay? Perhaps practice how you would approach those questions, how much time you would spend, so that you can work on your strategy during the real exam, as well as work on your time management. Okay, now let's think about also this FIFA Football Agent Regulations and the global suspension, and particularly what is examinable in particularly May 2024 exam, which is upcoming. Now, what we know, first of all, FIFA back in January 2024 is suspended certain provisions of FFAR. And when we look at the study materials, January 2024 edition, within that, there is this text, and the key part of that text, which is in the introduction section of the study materials, states that the exam, and this is May 2024 exam on the 22nd of May, will not be based on the suspended provisions of the FFAR as per FIFA Circular No. 1873. So basically what this information is indicating, those suspended provisions of FFAR, which are outlined by FIFA Circular 1873, will not be examined. When we look at this circular, which is, by the way, available, publicly available online, we know that the circular outlines number of provisions of FFAR that are suspended because of ongoing legal challenges against these regulations, FIFA Football Agent Regulations. Now, to put this into context, when we look at the regulatory text, and I try to highlight those provisions that are impacted by the partial suspension by FIFA, as you can see, actually, the impact is quite substantial. And therefore, here we can see that all these provisions of the FFAR, which are outlined under the Circular 1873, they will not be examined during the May 2024 exam. Whereas what will be examined, those provisions that are not affected by the global partial suspension and are currently in force. And they are, as outlined here, for instance, the whole licensing regime provisions, becoming a football agent, representation contracts, those service fee provisions, and those are some sub-provisions of the certain articles, such as payments on behalf of players, agent entitlement to a service fee, those unaffected provisions around the service fee provisions are examinable. Representations of minors, whole Article 13 is unaffected, examinable, as well as rights and obligations of clients. So therefore, what is important at this stage for those participants taking the exam on 22nd of May 2024, that first of all, when you are studying FFAR, focus on these provisions. Perhaps you should have been studying the study materials by now, and as you are revising now in this final week, so make sure that you focus on these provisions that are unaffected and currently enforced by unaffected by the global partial suspension and currently enforced, and study them well, learn them well, so that you will be able to tackle all those questions potentially on FFAR based on these provisions. Okay, so this is quite fundamental in my view that you need to understand and appreciate with respect to what is being or what is going to be examined in the May exam from FFAR. And the final one I want to talk about is, the final point is this concept of open book exam and your strategy for using the FIFA study materials during the exam. What we know, again, from the study materials as well as FIFA Agent Exam rules, you have two options to access the study materials during the exam. The first one is you can decide to access the materials online, and that's basically there will be a link on the FIFA Agent platform when you are taking the exam, and once you click on that link to the study materials, the electronic version of the materials will be open on a new tab in your browsers. So that's how you are going to access it. So therefore, you will have electronic PDF of the materials. And that's the electronic copy that you can access. Or alternatively, you can print these study materials and take them with you as a hard copy. Okay? So you have two options there. And obviously, everybody has got different preferences. You know, I'm not gonna really advise which option to do, you know, which option to exercise. But all I'm saying is you've got two options and you need to effectively choose one of them. Now, therefore, I just want to briefly talk about perhaps pros and cons of each option. Now, in terms of electronic copy, first of all, perhaps one of the key benefits of accessing the study materials as an electronic copy is, first of all, obviously navigation of the materials. And note that it's a, as you may know, you know, it's a substantial document. It's over 600 pages, and therefore you somehow need to think about how do you navigate these materials during the exam. And what is important in terms of electronic copy, obviously you can search the electronic copy. So you can have some keywords to search when you are analyzing and working on the questions. Therefore, perhaps think about that strategy. So when you are, for instance, completing the mock exam on the FIFA Agent platform, make sure you click on that study link, access the electronic copy, and then as you are working with the questions, make sure you are sort of practicing how you will do keyword search and how you would navigate the materials. Okay, so this is an important functionality or functionality that you will have if you access the materials electronically. But I've got a word of caution for you. Okay, first of all, as I said, this is a big material, so it's in terms of number of pages. But then please don't assume that just by keyword searching you will immediately find answers to the questions. Okay, so, and it can be time-consuming process, this keyword search. First of all, you need to be quite specific about what term you are searching, because if you search, for instance, a generic term like agent, you will have too many entries or returns in your search. So you need to be much more specific. And therefore, I'm saying you need to practice this. So therefore, bear that in mind that it can be time-consuming. And the other one, as I said, do not assume that you will find the answers immediately, because once you identify, let's say, key provision, you still need to make sense of the provision, interpret it, then apply that provision to the question, and then try to identify the correct answer. So for me, therefore, although this can be a strategy, and I'm not dismissing that, I encourage you, for instance, if you are gonna use the electronic copy, make sure that you utilize the search functionality. But at the same time, I think it's extremely important that you study these materials well, so that basically during the exam, you are not trying to make sense of the provision because you are not prepared. And that could be a very detrimental to your success. But the way to use this strategy is where you really want to check whether you are on the correct line of understanding with the question, and therefore you can sort of identify the correct answer. So don't assume that therefore just by keyword searching you will be able to find the answer immediately, because I think it will be extremely challenging. So therefore, my key advice here is study well and understand the materials, so that this specific strategy, if you adopt it, will work better. In terms of the hard copy, so it has also some of its benefits, I suppose. And the big one perhaps is, first of all, you can make notes on the hard copy. Okay? So, and if you are taking the hard copy, make those notes. You can highlight it and make notes on the hard copy. So what is important to note here is that those notes can only be done on the hard copy. So in other words, you cannot take your notes separately alongside the hard copy. Well, that's very important. So any additional material you want to take except the hard copy is not permissible. So therefore, if you are utilizing hard copy, make your notes on the copy itself, because separate notes or any additional material is not permissible. And then perhaps again, you need to think about how you are going to navigate the hard copy. Okay? So therefore, think about, for instance, using divider binders for each material, for each regulation, and the safeguarding materials, so that when you are searching, you are navigating the hard copy, you will be able to basically flip around and access to each material quickly. And then obviously you need to again navigate and identify the right provision to sort of utilize the materials for the purpose of answering the questions. Okay, so this is also quite important, because as I said, it's a big document, and if you take it as a hard copy, somehow you need to think about how you are going to navigate it again. And these are the things really I want to talk about, and I want you to reflect. So think about the type of questions that might come in this next exam. And for me, I think expect scenario-based tech-savvy questions, and those with select one or more options. So where more than one option might be the correct answer. And obviously in those type of questions, you need to select all of the correct options in order to correctly answer the question. And then think about how you are studying the FIFA Football Agent Regulations so that you can right now revise and focus on those provisions that are not affected by the global partial suspension of the FFAR and therefore examinable in the May exam, and then also reflect on your strategy about how to utilize and access the study materials during the exam itself. Now, to finalize the presentation and focus on your questions, as I said, we have got our training course, which is fully online training course, and we have been helping our delegates since May 2023. And in this training course, basically, we cover everything from the study materials to exam strategy, as well as we have got a number of mock examinations where our delegates can literally experience and get ready for, experience the exam and get ready for the real exam. Okay? And this is where I'm going to stop and we can start taking your questions. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Serhat, for these expert insights. No doubt that our attendees found it incredibly useful ahead of the next FIFA Agent exam coming up here later in May. We've had a lot of questions from our audience and we'll now be putting those to you. If you have any more questions, audience, please keep them coming and we'll do our best to get through them. But firstly, we actually have a few exam-related questions from last week's webinar on the future of FIFA Agent Regulations, which you can watch in full on our YouTube channel at TransferRoom. So before we cover any of the new questions, we'll just cover a few of those questions from last week. The first question to you, Serhat, in the FIFA Agent practice questions, you are asked to provide one or more answers. I gave 2 correct answers and I got the question wrong because there was a third answer that was also correct. Can you talk a little bit about why that is so?
Okay, and that's exactly the point I'm making. And in our training course, we cover this. There are different types of questions that you can expect in the exam. Okay, but in terms of the correct choices, you usually have the select one questions, and the question text clearly states that. So pay attention to that. It will say select one in the question text. That means that question is there is only one correct answer. And then you've got those which states select one and more, one or more. And those questions where I define as basically potentially having more than one option correct. And as I said, in order to answer those type of questions correctly, you must select all of the correct options. So in this example, if there are 3 options that needs to be selected because they are the correct options, and if the candidate selects only 2, that means for the system, they are not answering because they are not selecting all of the correct options, that means they are not answering the question right. That's why then in turn, when probably this individual that posed the question, when they review their answers, that's why they see that the system indicates that question as wrongly answered or incorrect. But that's the reason. So therefore, it's very important when first of all analyzing the questions, look at the question text and identify whether it states select one or select one or more. If it's a select one or more question, you should automatically think about potentially more than one option being correct in that type of question and work with that.
And then it becomes a question of whether it has 2 or 3 or even more answers, I guess.
Exactly. So this is the other thing. Select one or more means there might be more than one correct option, but it doesn't mean that there is always. This is the caveat, and this is the tricky aspect of those questions. And obviously that's the assessment of the candidate during the exam to ensure that, yeah, the correct options are identified.
There was another question from last week from Caden Morrison. The question goes, in the FIFA exam on the FIFA Agent platform mock, will those questions be the same questions on the exam, or are they just trial questions?
No. So as far as what we know from FIFA, mock exams and real exam questions are different. There are different pools of questions dedicated to mock exams and the real exams. So therefore, candidates who are completing practice exams or more mock exams, as we call them, they shouldn't expect those questions also in the real exam.
If we move on to some of the questions from today's session here, there's a question from Anon, and it's about who can be a football agent. And it's basically professional players, professional coaches, amateur players, amateur coaches. And he's saying, I cannot understand the basis for an amateur coach not being allowed. If you could please explain that further.
And this is about the eligibility requirements, isn't it? Well, there is eligibility element. I mean, this is with TransferRoom, we did also a step-by-step guide for the registering for the FIFA Agent Exam. And what we outlined there and what we know is you need to go through, actually, exam is the part of the licensing process. And within that process, before actually being able to allow to take the exam, candidate needs to be verified against their eligibility to have the license. And that's where there are certain restrictions around, you know, profile of individuals that who are eligible to have the FIFA Football Agent license. And what we know from the regulations, particularly those officials of the game, FIFA defines it as, obviously they are restricted, they are not eligible to take the exam. So therefore, those profile of candidates, therefore they won't be eligible. That would be my answer to that question. So it's about eligibility, basically.
Yes, all clear. Thank you for that. So there was another question from Anon as well. It's, are we able to use an online version of the FIFA study materials, or does it have to be printed out? And if it is accessible via the agent platform, is there a search function enabled on those materials?
Correct. Again, this was within the presentation, and you will have one of the two options: either access it electronically via study agent platform, or take the hard copy. That's your choice, okay? When you access the electronic copy, as I said, it will open a new tab in your browser, and without knowing what type of computer you are using, for instance, I use Mac, and the search functionality was there. So therefore, my piece of advice would be, if you are completing the FIFA practice exam, make sure that you open your study materials in your device and then practice with the search functionality, I would say. But you should be able to search unless your system doesn't allow it. And I don't think it would be the case. As I said, with my Mac, I am able to search the electronic file.
All clear. Milton Fantas has a question here where he asks, how realistic is the practice exam to the actual questions or material that will be used in the exam?
I would say, because I completed the practice exam myself as well, because I took the exam in April 2023. And the way I worked with the practice exam was to get the feel of the style of question, the ways the questions are formed. I think that's very helpful in that respect. And again, it just put your knowledge and understanding into use. So therefore, I would say practice examination offers that experience. But according to our delegates' experience of the real exam versus the practice exam, and my experience of the practice exam and the real exam, I would say that real exam is more difficult than the practice exam that I had.
A couple of group questions here. One is, will we get questions on FIFA governance / wider regulations or just the football agent regulations? And then there was a slightly similar question, which is around roughly how many of the exam questions will be based on the FIFA Football Agent Regulations as opposed to other sections of the study materials.
Okay, that second question is really good one, actually. But let's handle the first one. And the first one is basically what materials are covered in the exam, isn't it? What is examinable? And for that, my advice would be for the participant to review the study materials. So whatever is within the study materials, the exam will be based on them. Okay, and we know that so it's not just FIFA Football Agent Regulations. You've got FIFA RSTP, you've got FIFA statutes, you've got FIFA Clearinghouse Regulations, FIFA Guardians materials. So there is quite a lot there in terms of study materials. So therefore, I would encourage the participant to actually check to see what materials exam is based on. Now, the second question is more about what I define as distribution of the questions on those specific materials. And it's a very good question. So again, we have got a guidance, for instance, in our training course, and I can offer some insight here. And what we know also, some of the communications from FIFA historically, that the two core materials are FIFA Football Agent Regulations and FIFA regulations on the status and transfer of players, FIFA RSTP. And usually about 50 to 60% of the exam questions are based on these two core regulations of FIFA. And then the rest is from other materials. Okay, so that would be this. So 40% would be based on other materials. So this is, in a way, again, this is in line with my April 2023 exam experience and how the questions that I've got were distributed according to the study materials. Now, and the reason I say this, because one thing to add also, that bear that in mind, each candidate gets different set of questions, okay? So the exam is randomized. So basically every candidate, the system will select 20 questions, and those questions will be randomly selected for each candidate. So there are not 20 set questions every candidate completes. That's why I'm saying, from my experience, this was type of distribution that I had in my exam based on those study materials.
All clear. And I think just along these same lines here, Serhat, can you give an example of the structure of the test and how many questions from each field or part of the exam materials you would expect to be asked?
And again, this is sort of in line with the experience. I would say 5, 6 from FFAR, FIFA Football Agent Regulations, 5, 6 from RSTP, FIFA regulations on the status and transfer of players, and then the remaining 7, 8 there is going to be on other materials. For instance, in my exam, I had 2 based on FIFA Guardians, so those safeguarding materials. Yeah, so it will be distributed accordingly. But that's what I would say in general.
Another group question that's been asked by a few different participants here. Is there a way, or is there any way I can get a translated version of the study material to take with me to the exam?
Okay, this is actually an excellent question. And I am not sure if there is a translated version available, because we know that those materials which are published, as far as I know, and I can check this again, and I might need to check this perhaps, but as far as I know, the available one is in English. Now, one sport is available on the agent platform. When candidate access to exam, there is also unofficial translator link. So, and this is basically FIFA is make that functionality available with a view to help those candidates whose first language is not English, Spanish, or French, because the exam is available in 3 languages. So the candidates can take the exam in 3 languages. But those who who use other languages, therefore they can access the translator capability of the platform. Sorry, I've got a call coming. Let me decline this quickly. My apologies.
As long as it's about the exam, it's okay.
Yeah. And therefore, that functionality is there. So perhaps participants and candidates needs to be aware of that. In terms of potentially translating the materials and creating on your copy, then I think that requires permission. And I don't think creating such additional material is actually permissible item under the FIFA Agent Exam rules. So therefore, my answer to that is check with your member association. So email them, also email FIFA Agent Department and raise this as a query. Because don't assume that you can just translate things into your own language and take the material of that translated copy. I think it will constitute, as I'm interpreting the rules, is it will constitute non-permissible material. Because the rule is clear. You can either take the hard copy of the study material, official study materials of FIFA, or access the materials via electronically.
We are fastly running out of time. I have 2 very quick questions lastly, Serhat, that you can hopefully answer in very few words here. The first one is, how much is the exam? And the second one is, can you go back to questions during the exam once you've answered them?
Okay, good question in both of them. So I'm assuming that how much question is the fee question. Okay. One thing to note, the exam fee is determined and charged by the member associations, because obviously they administer the exam, isn't it? So they arrange the venue, they invite the candidates on the day, and then candidates access the exam via agent platform online. That's basically what's going to happen on the day. Therefore, FIFA gave flexibility to member association to dictate and determine an exam fee to cover those administrative and logistical costs that they might incur. And that cost vary from member association to member association. That's what I would say. So therefore, those participants who are planning to take the exam, check that with your member association. And obviously, if exam fee is not paid, the candidate will not be allowed to take the exam. That's another condition or precondition about the fee. So make sure that you know the level of fee, and obviously you need to pay. And then the second question was, Frederik, can you just quickly remind me?
The second question was just very quickly whether you are able to go back to questions during the exam once you've answered them.
Correct, yeah. So what will happen when you start your exam on the agent platform, then you will be actually, there is a navigation panel you will see with the numbers of the questions, and you can actually click that navigation panel to jump between questions. You can, if you are not unsure about the question, you can leave it without answer and move to the next one. But also you can red flag it in order to remind yourself maybe which question you are not answering. So all those navigation functionalities are there. That's why my advice to all of the participants and candidates to make sure they do the practice examination on the FIFA Agent platform so that they can experience the platform as well and practice those functionalities.
That is unfortunately all we have time for. First of all, a big thank you to you, Serhat, for your expert knowledge on the FIFA Agent exam and for helping to give you the best chance, everyone here, the best chance of passing. And also thank you to the audience for watching, for engaging, and for submitting your questions. The full video from this webinar will soon be posted on our YouTube channel at TransferRoom. So please subscribe so you're the first one to see the full video, and you can also check out all our other latest video content. This is the second thought leadership webinar in our series on the TransferRoom Agent Exchange, where you can find unmissable industry knowledge on regulations, market insights, transfer trends, and much more. We wish all the agents taking the next FIFA exam good luck. And if you want to take your knowledge to the next level, you can also find more about Serhat specialist courses for agents, including on the FIFA exam, with our links in the description on the YouTube video. And once you've passed, you can take your transfer business to the next level, open up the global market, and build your reputation as a trusted agent on TransferRoom. Visit transferroom.com to find out more. Thank you all for watching, and goodbye.